I think one of the challenges for leaders currently is that we've got high-performing teams in high-performing organisations with high-performing leaders, but when we introduce the diversity into the mix, then that level of inclusion lapses and therefore the performance goes down. The leaders of the future need to build on the experience and the successes of leaders of the present and the past, but they have to accept that things have to change in terms of behaviour, practice and process in order to be inclusive for all.
You know, we know through neuroscience that human beings have a very simple but interesting default position, which is we are neurologically designed just to hang out with people that are like us. And that's interesting then from a leadership perspective, and what does that mean for leadership? So if we have a gravitational pull to similarity, the role of a leader is to step out of their sameness. The role of the leader is to start to connect with people who are different from them in order to get that innovation, creativity and the rest of it. Not many leaders have the skills to do that actually, so I think this is probably one of the biggest strategic challenges for public, private, non-for-profit sector organisations. And it's interesting because you might assume that you know, one sector is better at this than the other, but actually when you look at sectors and you look at the research, I think all of those sectors have quite a long road to travel actually.
There's a common denominator, and that is the leader who's comfortable in themselves. It's very difficult to give to a room if your consciousness is about wondering how you're impacting on others. The leader of the future has to be much more conscious of their impact on other people and the other people's behaviours and what they're getting from the conversation and the dialogue, then, you know, is this right? Am I saying it right? Am I doing my best?
I think the D&I agenda has got so many layers to it, and bearing in mind a number of businesses still haven't even tackled the gender piece yet. We tackled gender first 7 years ago and we are far from done. I mean, this really is a long-term strategy. And I think as each time I move into a different strand and focus on a different population, then you have to think about how they interweave with one another. Race is a huge thing. Is it just on ethnicity, or do you look at faith, or do you look at nationality? You know, and I think it doesn't matter where you think you've gotten to, there is always more you can do.
And I think the inclusive organisation is one where its employees don't prefer not to say, they say, and we get a really true opinion, and we get some difficult messages, and we're open to those difficult messages and we deal with them. So that in my view, the inclusive organisation is one that is prepared to ask the difficult questions, listen to those responses and publicly respond to them, and not just feel everything's lovely.
Exodus of talent isn't something that you want happening when it's so important these days that you are staying on the cutting edge. Your best and your brightest have choices. They have choices, and they will use those choices, just not for you. If you don't know how to address a gender or race or religious imbalance in your organisation, go and ask the affected parties. Just ask them, and if you make a mistake in how you phrase things or whatever, you will be forgiven if you're doing it with a positive intention.
If you haven't done it yet, if you haven't started your D&I strategy, then just make the first step. Because procrastination is going to get you nowhere. You've just got